Welcome back. I'm pretty sure Trevor's watching TikTok right
I
about now.
was.
Yeah, I bet he was. We're here on a Monday, which actually works out because we get to talk about the entire NFL slate from yesterday. We went from a high-powered, very crazy Sunday Night Football Week 1 to then the boring 1940s football. The Vikings give up a quarterback that led them to 14 wins, and now they have a kid that's in diapers. So we'll see how that works out for them because he's also hurt. But we'll start out with college football first. Okay, so here we go. I'll give the picks for this week. Here we go. You guys went 4-3.
That's not terrible.
Not
About
terrible, not
500.
great. Not as good as I did though. I went 6-1.
Yeah, that is
Um,
very good.
Yeah, but you bet against your own team.
Yeah,
That's
that's
Yeah,
cheating.
and I was right. I mean, if you're going to talk about any team, you got to talk about the team you know the best, right? And I know them the best. They're terrible. They'll be lucky to go 8-4. We'll talk about that more in depth, but it's atrocious. It's atrocious. It's just embarrassing. Welcome to the fandom, Trevor. Trevor last week, Jerry. I don't know if you know, he said that his new favorite college football team because he didn't really have one was Notre Dame. And yeah, welcome. This is the pain you get.
Can I interest you in the state institution of Missouri? We have a similar amount of pain, less fans, and we're in a conference that every year belittles us for existing.
You son of a gun, I'm in.
I mean, that's just might as well while you're at that point. There was 2 firings in college football already. I mean, they're like I wouldn't say they're top tier jobs. They're middle of the pack jobs, but very good jobs if you get the right person in place. There's some money involved, especially in the one. UCLA fired their coach, and Virginia Tech fired their coach. Jared, you got a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, very interesting here in both situations. I'll start with Virginia Tech and Brent Pry. Brent Pry has been there for, I think, now 4 years, below 500 ever since. This is one I'm keeping an eye on. Obviously, we're going to talk about UCLA in a bit. UCLA is a little more easier to digest, diagnose, talk about. But Brent Pry was one of these guys that was brought in to be a slow build. Virginia Tech, obviously, not the top of the road program as it was once known under Beamer, but you've had that long stretch of success. So people kind of go there and go, wow, Virginia Tech can be this, that. You have Enter Sandman. You have pieces there. You have history. We have great players, etc. So there is a tradition of winning here. Money is going to be an issue. This is an ACC team that is in this bottom half of spending overall in the athletic department. Luckily for them, the Brett Pry buyout was only about $6 million, which when we talk about how crazy buyouts have been in the past, i.e. Jimbo Fisher, another team in Maroon, this looks like pennies. But this will be something that I'm very interested in because this is a job that requires a lot of work in the DMV area, which there is a lot of talent in, but you have not. Right now, you have Penn State on top overall, getting good talent out of that area, but also just being the best team in the area. And then Maryland, which has not been good, but Mike Loxley is really good at recruiting in that area. So we're watching that. UCLA is the one that's going to propose a lot of questions. Foster was there for about 2 seasons. Had a terrible media day, if you remember that last year. That was kind of awkward. That's what a lot of people remember him for, which kind of sucks. And now they also remember him for the Nico situation in Saga. We're going to talk about Tennessee more in length here in a bit. But both these guys out by week 3, both for about the same amount. Really too early to put out a lot of names, but every good G5 coach will be put in conversation with these teams. I don't know which one will take or move. But yeah, very early in the year. This is something that is translated from the old coaching carousels, and especially a couple years ago when we had that real crazy one that actually ends up with like Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, Brian Kelly at LSU, was the idea of getting to the market first and getting to the market early, because this didn't cost a lot for either either program. Getting to the market early to try to find somebody is kind of the move here, but already more active than it was last year. Both teams 0-3, bad losses. It was UCLA, New Mexico. That's and Old Dominion absolutely wiped the floor at Virginia Tech. Very bad vibes there. But yeah, early season woes for these teams, and it's going to get real weird. The transfer portal should reopen for both these programs, so keep an eye out for that for anybody who's worth a damn. Nico does have the chance to do the funniest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird, right, that the transfer portal opens up during the season. I will say Foster at UCLA he kind of got thrown into a job. Chip Kelly left kind of after the whole cycle had happened with coaching, goes to Ohio State to be offensive coordinator. They were kind of like, oh, we need somebody. They scrambled, and they fell upon him. Yeah, he had the terrible media day at the Big Ten Media Day. As your team is also thrown into the Big Ten from being a Pac-12 school historically, yeah, you go out, you get Nico, you think there's going to be some goodwill and maybe get going, and you haven't even played your Big Ten schedule yet, and you're already 0-3. So, Foster never really got a shot, but he maybe a sacrificial lamb at UCLA. But UCLA is a weird program because, yeah, there's money behind it, but the stadium's not full all the time. Is there a real buy-in to it as a sport? So that'll be interesting. Virginia Tech is one of those where you got to really hunker down and you got to be devoted to it, and you got to want to pull up your sleeves and grab your lunch pail, because it's going to be tough. In the ACC, there's chances though, so it will be interesting to see who they both go after. But yeah, I mean, very early with the transfer portal opening up, it's going to be very, very goofy. There's going to be some upset fans with how the transport opens early, and that leads us to some upsets of this weekend. So Clemson, I picked them to win the national title. I thought they were going to be really good. I think we all thought they were going to be really, really good. Cade Klubnik was looked at as maybe the Heisman Trophy winner. This guy that's come in, he's a senior, he's got experience. Their offense explosive. They probably have 2 defensive linemen that could potentially be first-round picks. They lose to LSU week 1. You're like, okay, that's LSU. They struggle against Troy. They should have lost that game. And then they go to Georgia Tech, and old Haynes King down there took them to the deep end, and Georgia Tech beat them 24-21. It was a crazy game. It was one of those games where you think Georgia Tech's going to run away with it. Clemson, you're like, oh, wait, they're going to come back. They're going to win this game. And Georgia Tech ends up going down the field and kicking a field goal. So very weird position now for Clemson at 1-2.
Shout out to teams on fire drill. Shout out to Georgia Tech special teams on that fire drill. That was awesome to pull off the game-winning field goal. It's very funny because Brent Key and Foster, I feel like, were very similar coaches when they were hired. They're supposed to be kind of like these bridge coaches. The idea of like maybe they're not that great, not that bad, but like you said with Chip Kelly getting fired so late in the cycle, Foster kind of came in this weird spot. He's supposed to get you to your next guy. Brent Key was that thought at Georgia Tech, and he's been the exact opposite. He's been awesome. His teams are super gritty. And the one thing I'm super impressed with by them is they did not lose any of the pieces, not even like on the field, but what have made this Georgia Tech program so successful the last couple of years is being really hard-nosed, really annoying, sticking in games. This is what they did to Georgia last year, and it's not fallen off in the slightest. I'm glad they're getting this type of recognition. This is a big win. And this is a harder game for Clemson than I think it gets credit for still because, yes, this was an upset, but this is a very good Georgia Tech team that I don't know if they're necessarily ACC title contenders or in that spot, but they can make some damage, and they're a tough out. And this was a perfect example in front of their home crowd of being a tough out.
Yeah, what a fall off from pre-season, if you want to call it, to where this Clemson team was so hyped up, and even by us, we kind of we drank the Kool-Aid right on this one. That game was a really good game. I really enjoyed that game, and I think Jerry, you made a good point. Georgia Tech is not a bad team at all. Not an easy road for Clemson in the ACC now. But I was totally surprised by how I think we all were how Clemson is coming off to start this season. It's the exact opposite of what we all thought. Not impossible to like have a decent turnaround. Obviously, I think you have to play Florida State and things like that. But I don't think they're gonna make the college playoffs, but could still finish 9-3 or whatever it is, which it would be a kind of a letdown because a lot of teams, like Caleb said, Caleb picked them to win the national championship. I think I picked them to be in the national championship. So, yeah, pretty crazy start for Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that first of all, Georgia Tech knows who they are. And when a football team knows who they are, it helps a lot. Clemson clearly doesn't know who they are. I don't think there's been in the history of football a guy that has struggled since coordinators have left more than Dabo. He lost Tony Elliott offensively years ago to Virginia. He, of course, lost Brent Venables. And ever since he lost those two guys, Clemson's not been the same. They have not. He thought he kind of regained it last year, making the playoff, winning the ACC again. You think you come in, you have it, you have experience, you have weapons. This is a typical Clemson team that, 10 years ago we look at and say this is going to be the best team in the country. Everything on papers proves that. They have a great weapons on the outside, which they hadn't had in years. They have a quarterback with experience. They have a defense that you're like, okay, they got players all over the place. And it just hasn't come together. So I don't know what he needs to do. I said years ago when they started struggling, he did something to Jesus. Maybe he did it again. That's just maybe where he's at.
Well, and I think too, we kind of gave them the benefit of not being in the Big Ten or SEC.
Yeah.
And they're like so far really struggling. I know they had a tough loss to LSU, and that losing to LSU at this point is not something that to like really. I think LSU is a really good team this year. So, but to come out and like lose to Georgia Tech, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So now they have to play Syracuse. They have a bye, then at North Carolina, at Boston College, SMU, another bye, Duke at home, Florida State at home, at Louisville. They play Furman, and then at South Carolina. So they don't have to play Miami in the ACC, but you still have to play Florida State, New England. You still have to play South Carolina. Louisville could be a potential tough game. So, yeah, I mean, you got to look at Clemson and you go, okay, you got to really retool this thing and figure it out. And all I've heard is like, okay, they have a conference championship game that helps them, but unless it gets real weird everywhere else in college football, you win it, you lose another. The way they're playing, they're gonna not be very good. They're gonna lose probably 2 more games if they continue to play this way. I don't know if they can quickly figure it out. All right, quickly, let me get to creepy photo Nolan Mark. He says, yeah, I wasn't bought in on the Clemson juice. But, hey, they had a shot and blew it, so did my Irish. Yeah, we'll get into the Irish a little later. Another upset here, I think we all picked South Carolina to win. I didn't think Vandy could win this game, and in the fashion that they won it.
Right.
I didn't watch the game, but I kept up with the score. I was around SEC people. They cared about the game. I could have cared less. They're all about it because Jerry, it just means more.
It just means more. Big news out of this was Lenora Sellers went out of the game, I think, around second quarter. He's the key engine of their star quarterback. Ever since that, this game absolutely turned on its head. Vandy, though, even though with that in mind, and they're on a second string quarterback, Vandy's not to be messed with. Vandy is a team that's going to scare a lot of folks, and it's because Diego Pavia is a fantastic, been here forever quarterback. He is what a lot of people think Cade Klubnik should be. Is if you want to talk about these two teams where you talk about a guy with experience, a guy with bravado, etc. That's Diego Pavia. And now he's been in college football even longer than Klubnik. Let's give that where it's due. And he has a great target in Eli Stowers. This is a team that can play. Clark Lee has done a lot of work. And what I love about Vandy, even though their roster construction is of a lot of weird pieces and parts, they kind of remind me of old school college football, which this is the year where a lot of their pieces are on their final year of eligibility. Like the really good pieces are seniors, last year guys, and they're making it work. I have no clue how this goes on past this year, but it doesn't matter because you just went into Columbia, you went into Williams-Brice Stadium and beat the brakes off a team that was ranked, and you made them look like they're not ranked. Interesting matchups for both teams coming off of this game that are going to tell us a lot. If I remember correctly, Vandy gets LSU next. Which we'll talk a little bit more about LSU in the coming minutes. So I don't want to spoil too much, but that's an interesting game. South Carolina goes to Missouri. So that's
knows all about that place.
Well, that's so there's going to be a lot. There's a lot riding on how this week shakes up. But also, again, if Lenora Sellers is hurt for an extended period of time, this makes a lot of questions come really quick for South Carolina, a team that got a fair amount of hype. I think they somewhat deserved it. The passing game has been left to be desired. With that in mind, the receiving core could be better. But it doesn't matter if you're one player or two players gets hurt. You beat a team by 20-plus points. You deserve to get recognized for that. And Vandy absolutely did that. They looked like the better team. And, yeah, it helps for South Carolina to lose their star. Vandy's not to be messed with.
Yeah, I mean, so Vandy doesn't they don't play LSU till week 8, Jerry. So
I thought they were next week. I apologize.
So they have Georgia State. They play Georgia State, Utah
they had the chance
State.
To do the funniest thing. Do you remember what happened last year at Georgia State Vandy?
Did they lose?
Yes. Georgia State beat Vandy last year.
Oh, they could do it again, coming off of an emotional high. So they play Georgia State at home, Utah State at home, a lot of state schools. What's up with the state schools in Vandy? Then they have to go to Alabama. Then they have a bye week, then LSU at home. Then they have to play Missouri at home. At Texas, Auburn, by Kentucky, at Tennessee. So Vandy could be a little spoiler here. I thought they were going to be terrible. I thought they were going to go 4-8. just based off how the SEC was. But look, Clark Lee's a good coach. He's another guy. He knows the identity. He understands his identity as a coach. He's got an experienced quarterback he's confident. He's got cockiness. He believes every game that they go into, they can win the game. And that helps so much in college football when you have a guy like that. He's really turned the program around. He's a great defensive coach, but he's figured it out. Some people thought him leaving Notre Dame when he left Notre Dame to be defense coordinator to go to Vandy, which is his alma mater. They're like, what are you doing? You're crazy. But he believes in it. He wants them to be good. If there's anybody that can make Vandy anything, it's going to be Clark Lee because he believes in it the most. For them to beat South Carolina, I thought this was a chance for South Carolina to prove that they're different, and they're different South Carolina. Shane Beamer, to me, is maybe overrated as a coach, I think, or properly rated, depending on how you view him. To me, he really hasn't won a big game. The A&M fans agreed with me when we were talking about the game. They all hate Shane Beamer. So he's this guy that he's a good coach, but he just doesn't win the games when he needs to. And this is one of those games where I understand your quarterback gets hurt, but you're at home. It's at night. You're a favorite in this game. You should probably win it. But look, this shows you the SEC and maybe the depth of the SEC, and maybe there's more depth than we thought coming into the season. All right, I have some other outcomes before we get to the three games that we'll highlight here. Miami, look, they put USF down. They said, hey, you're not coming in here and doing this to us. Beat them 49-12. USF still has college football playoff chances, though. There's no doubt about that. If they're 11-1 with their only loss to Miami, who we think right now is in the driver's seat in the ACC, that's not so bad. They'll be in the playoff. Ole Miss, they outlasted Arkansas, I will say, 41-35. Did their backup quarterback play?
Yeah, and I think he actually went crazy.
It's the Ferris State kid, right?
Yeah, I think so. That one I didn't have as much attention on, even though it was a shootout. I think Taylor Green also got hurt for Arkansas to be in that game. That's another point to keep an eye on. He's honestly 3/4 of their offense because he's a really good mobile quarterback. But yeah, I think their backup took care of business there.
This is the better Ole Miss does and the worse Florida does. It's only going to continue the Lane Kiffin to Florida, which is Tennessee fans are going to love that. Just love it. Bama returns to being Bama over Wisconsin 38-14. Luke Fickell's going to be fired, right? We're all in agreement on that.
I can't believe that's not working, but every week I just get reminded it's not working. But also Bama needed to do what they did in this game for people to remember that Kalen DeBoer is not a bad coach. That was a dominant victory. That score is a little misleading because that's a lot of garbage time TDs. Bama should have shut him out damn near.
Yeah, it was you would think, but Luke Fickell did very well at Cincinnati, got them to the playoff. He had great coaching staffs too, and he has not done that as well at Wisconsin. Built great coaching staffs. He had Mike Denbrock. You look at Marcus Freeman. He had some really good coaches underneath him, and he's not been able to replicate that in Wisconsin. But you would think he's a Big Ten guy. He understands the Big Ten. Wisconsin, historically is very good. So you would think it works. It's not working. And then West Virginia beat Pitt in overtime, 31-24. Rich Rod comes back into the, what do they call it, backyard brawl or something?
Backyard brawl, baby. Great rivalry. I'm glad that's back. Last year was an electric game. This year is an electric game. But that's big for West Virginia coming off that loss to Ohio last week, too, to come out here and beat Pitt. Pitt's going to get real weird. I always think Narduzzi's a really weird coach. So I'm very curious what that looks like. But he has 5 more years on his deal. So,
yeah, Narduzzi is he's a tough guy. He's a physical guy. He's a guy you want in a brawl if you were doing a coaching matchup. But yeah, West Virginia. Look, Rich Rod's building something. He knows how to win there. And when you get in these rivalry games, you never really know what is going to happen. Creepy Photo had a comment here about Ole Miss's quarterback. Rel kept me posted. Trinidad went crazy, went brazy, his words. So if you don't know, Nolan's roommate, Terrell, played at Ferris State, won national championship, played with this quarterback, of course, so he knows. The kid went good. I just seen it. I was watching through TikToks, and a guy that does updates every week was like, Ole Miss's backup comes in from D2 and wins an SEC game. So it'd be very interesting to see moving forward, like you said, with Arkansas's injury with Taylor Green because they play Notre Dame in a couple weeks, and Ole Miss, as you have the SEC coming on, and you're a team that maybe could do some things. All right, staying in the SEC here. LSU beats Florida. Brian Kelly's still mad even after a win. He apologized today, but same old Brian Kelly. People ask why I don't like Brian Kelly. He's a bad neighbor. The guy doesn't wave when you wave back. Gives you dirty looks. I mean, if I had to go to him and ask for a couple eggs and a cup of sugar, he wouldn't give it to me. He's yelling at reporters, and like I said, he apologized today, but I think the reporter had fair questions even in a win, as you're still trying to figure out LSU, and you're this team that's supposed to have aspirations of winning a national title, and there's still some things to figure out. They beat Florida. What was it, 20-10?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, the questions are kind of fair when your defense gives you 5 turnovers and
Yeah.
you win by 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think that was the case. Lagway 5 picks, crazy.
Yeah, bad news bears for Florida because we've talked about this at length. Florida's schedule not easy, and something's going on with Lagway. He was one of these people in a wide open Heisman race that people kind of eyed, and that second half of last year was very, very good. It's funny. I was listening to Josh Pate a little bit earlier. The way he described Florida was fascinating, and I'm very curious how this looks for us this season. He goes, they do everything right prep-wise. They look like the Bamas, the Georgias of the world in terms of when you walk into the facility, you see how everything's set up, how these things go. But when it's game time, things are not working. It's, they get all the ingredients for Thanksgiving dinner, as he explained it. They have all the food you have ready, but no one knows how to cook it. And that's been kind of the issue there. That seat is obviously blazing. It really, this week especially, after you take that loss to South Florida and they get pummeled by Miami, who is the next opponent of Florida, it really doesn't feel good. You're going to have game day there next week too. So you're going to be on a high-profile stage no matter what. But shout out to LSU for winning an ugly game no matter what. Yeah, you can have offensive questions. That's fair. This Florida team still has talent. It's not like this is a talent-devoid roster. It's just a team that's not figuring it out. And it's really hard to win a football game turning the ball over 5 times. But you got to win the ugly games too. I want to say it's a bigger win for LSU than it is a loss for Florida, but it is a big deal to come out and play not well and still beat a decent opponent. But yeah, Napier, this is not looking good. He needs a big time win, and I don't know where it's coming.
Well, and so what I will say about Lagway, he is like a Heisman favorite at the beginning of the season. We have to remember too that this kid is a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got at most 2 more years, but maybe another year to figure it all out. He was 5-1 touchdowns to interception ratio going into this game. So I don't know if I would panic right away on Lagway, and I would be interested if maybe Lagway, because of this not so good Florida team, that we would see him in the transfer portal at some time, trying to go to a more a bigger contender or whatever. Not saying that if Napier probably gets fired, that maybe something could get turned around and Florida kind of going back to look like how Florida we kind of thought they would. But I still have faith in Lagway that he will have a pretty good college career. But like you said, Jerry, LSU won the game, and anytime you can win against another SEC opponent, a win's a win, even if it's only by 10 points. They still went in there and got the job done. So,
yeah, I mean, Lagway was number 1 overall recruit, number 1 quarterback. He's kind of a guy people looked at to say, hey, you're going to come in and kind of rebuild Florida, bring them back. It's not his fault that they've had the toughest schedule the last 2 years, and he has a coach that, yeah, like you said, Jerry, everything on the outside looks good, but there are definitely clear problems that only Billy Napier really knows what those are, right? If people can come in the building and think everything's fine. Looking at Florida's schedule, at Miami, bye week, Texas at home, at Texas A&M, Mississippi State at home, bye, Georgia, that's the cocktail party, so neutral site. We lost Jerry. St. Louis, man. Someone probably I don't know what happened, but I'm assuming someone probably cut his internet cord and probably stole it.
Maybe he had to take a poo.
Maybe he just, instead of just letting his camera stay there, he just respectfully exited the building. It could potentially be it. Florida then plays at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, Tennessee at home, and then Florida State. I mean, this could get bad.
But they have the chance to do the funniest thing ever and beat Miami next week.
They could,
Wouldn't
without
that
a
be
doubt.
insane?
I mean, if you're going to play for anything, it's for the state of Florida to potentially be the state champions. I think that they still do that thing. Creepy photo. Yeah, Jerry, he's gone. We lost him. I don't know where he went. Hopefully, the mean streets of St. Louis didn't get him.
Well, I mean, and this Florida team doesn't look particularly pretty, but I mean, there is a world where they beat Miami.
Yeah.
They beat Florida State.
Yeah.
And if they win out, I mean, we're talking about college football playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, and this will, like the UCLA and Virginia Tech thing will show Florida a lot, because if you were going to fire Billy Napier in season, it'd be during the bye week, right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at the transfer portal window thing and say, all right, if we fire him, are these guys going to leave like right away? Because, what I've seen in NCAA football, Lagway is in the transfer portal every time after the first season from playing these dynasties. So maybe that's foreshadowing to us what's going on. But, I don't know. I think Florida it's weird because historically it's viewed as a great school. And if you really look at it, Steve Spurrier kind of changed in the 90s, and they've had their success since then. But they're a team that you kind of view in an LSU way. If you get the right coach, you should be dominant and you should win a lot of games.
Yeah.
They thought they had that in Billy Napier. They didn't. And I know people have said, like, if Billy Napier, when he was available, I think LSU's job was available at the same time. People were like, we'd want LSU to have him.
Yeah.
Sadly, it just hasn't worked out. Sometimes getting to those bigger jobs aren't all what it seems to be. There's a lot of stuff you have to deal with outside of just football where it comes to, boosters and going to events. I know Chip Kelly had problems with that at UCLA. That was one reason he left. So you get to a school like Florida and everybody expects you to be great. Everybody expects you to do all these extracurricular things. I kind of view it like Texas, where the standard's so high, but and the expectations are so high, but you don't really get any leeway.
Right.
So it takes time, but we'll see. I mean, this could get ugly really, really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And just as easily as, we threw up this insane hypothetical that they went out. It could just as easily, like you said, get really, really ugly. Maybe potentially like losing to Kentucky, losing to Texas A&M, losing to Miami, losing to Florida State. That would be really bad. And like you said, they're probably gonna wait till the bye week. I think this Miami game will tell us a lot about the future. I don't think anyone's really expecting them to go in there and beat Miami, obviously. No. But they have to look competitive. They have to. And they look competitive in this game, kind of. If you erase the 5 interceptions thrown by Lagway, this game doesn't look as bad as everyone kind of makes out to seem. Obviously, they can only put up 10. But I mean, stopping LSU from just dismantling you off of 5 turnovers, that says a lot. So I do kind of think that they have a really tough battle going forward, and I don't think it looks very good. But I guess I'm an optimist.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, so they have motivation. Not only are they playing Miami, Florida school, you're kind of battling for your state, but Miami blew them out last year in the first game of the year at Florida. So you kind of have to go in and feel that. But yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like at Miami, they're not gonna be favored. They're gonna be underdogs. Versus Texas, they'll be an underdog. At A&M, they'll be an underdog.
Mississippi State, about Texas. Yeah, that's not
Mississippi State will be probably close. Georgia, they'll be an underdog. At Kentucky, will probably be close. At Old, they'll be an underdog. Playing Tennessee, they'll be an underdog. And Florida State, they'll be an underdog. Yeah. So out of their remaining, 9 games, 7 of them they're going to be underdogs, and only 2 are they going to be favored. Probably. So it's an uphill battle. This is what people were talking about with Florida is they expected them to be better, but with the schedule, it's going to be tough. Moving on to Florida's 2 biggest rivals.
This game was crazy.
Getting into it a little bit. This is what college football is all about.
Yeah.
Georgia beats Tennessee in overtime, outlasts them. I wasn't able to watch like the last probably the last like 4 or 5 minutes of the game and then overtime as I was walking into the stadium and tearing down the tailgate and all that. but just crazy madness.
It
I
was
mean,
awesome.
kickers, man.
I know, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, I don't. Do you know exactly how far that was that he missed to not win the game?
No, but it didn't look super far.
No, and that's what I thought. I mean, like the kind of the vibe of the game was Tennessee is kind of not marching, but running the ball pretty effectively and getting a pretty favorable field goal to win the game. But that's what happens, dude. And we saw it all in the NFL, all last week. These kickers, not we kind of had the opposite this week. But anyways, yeah, that game was amazing. Um, but I mean, Georgia, I would say that Georgia and Tennessee, they looked like this is. I mean, I feel like we say this every week, but whoever lost this game, their playoff chances are still realistic.
Yeah.
I mean, these are two of the best teams in the country, and I thought Tennessee was going to win by a touchdown. You thought Georgia was going to win because no one's talking about Georgia. But honestly, dude, these two teams looked very, very similar. And I think that like even if you do this, like play 10 times, I don't think Georgia wins
It's back.
9 times out of 10 or whatever.
Made the comeback. They call me Georgia. That's what we do here.
You're back.
Thought I was out of the game. No,
you're back. Yeah, I mean, we thought I saw that you froze, and I was hoping that it was just you'd come back. And then as I said your name as I was talking to you, I saw you were froze, and I'm like, hopefully it works. And then I just didn't see any movement from your face.
You tossed the live shot that wasn't there. I get it.
Yep, it happened.
I saw you were just sitting there with the same face.
yeah, my Wi-Fi for like 2 seconds, like, let's not work.
Yeah,
let's see what happens.
I thought someone like scribbed your Wi-Fi or stole it from you. Mean Streets of St. Louis guy.
They're not that smart, man. They're just stealing my Cali converter. Come on, get it right. Going for the wrong thing.
People used to steal cable all the time.
Yeah, we moved on. We moved on, and my Wi-Fi is not that good to steal. It really, as just shown, my Wi-Fi not.
Yeah, it's still. You're doing great, Trevor. That was a 43-yarder that he missed.
Yeah. Okay. So in college, it's not a chip shot. But I mean, in the SEC or SEC, those kickers they just mean more.
They do. They get paid more. They just mean more. They should make every kick.
Mizzou's kicker towards ACL on a kick return. A kick return. It doesn't mean more for kickers. What was Saban's kryptonite? Kickers.
Always a kicker. Yeah.
Or
trying to kick the ball when your kicker couldn't make it there.
Exactly. Like this is not the most shocking thing, but I was more impressed by Georgia's offense. You know what Tennessee's going to be offensively. Josh Heupel has shown that, proven that, etc. But the fact they won a shootout is what impressed me, because that's kind of been talking about kryptonite. Georgia's kryptonite. The receiving core is impressive. They always had a solid running game, but could you put up 40-plus points in a game like this? And the fact that Georgia's defense got pretty well gashed is interesting to me. But it's one of those things. I thought about it when I was making this pick. I didn't think about that hard, as you could tell. That Georgia just beats Tennessee. Kirby loves doing that. This is a guy that Kirby really likes beating as well because of the offensive strategy, etc. And here we go again. But one of the more electric ways that it's had to happen. But for both teams, this is just a good game. And that's what I think is awesome about it, is that this is not the end of the Tennessee season. They looked like a really good team. There's a lot going on there. I think they're bouncing back better than I expected them to, and a lot of other people did. For Georgia, that's a big win. Going into Neyland, this is full Neyland. This is not Neyland when it was like, man, we have nobody at quarterback and we're 6-6. And they were still coming out, but it wasn't the same. This is fully packed. All that. That's a hard place to win, and you pull it off in overtime. So really shout out to the Georgia offense. Good game. I would say good loss because that doesn't exist. But there's worse ways, and I think Tennessee will be fine in the long term, which is what you kind of hope from a loss like this.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee, they were just chucking the ball at the start. Like, they were trying to knock Georgia out early. I mean, they had 2 touchdowns of like 70 yards. Aguilar, really good quarterback. He fits Tennessee very, very well. They're much better off having him than with Nico. They probably wouldn't have said that in the spring, but that is definitely the case now. And yeah, Tennessee is just, you have this atmosphere that's great, but Georgia is one of those teams where I said it last week, no one's talking about them. Everybody is kind of like, kind of moved on from Georgia all of a sudden. Kirby knows that. They all know that. Gunnar Stockton can run the ball, be dual threat action. That's going to hurt some teams. So, yeah, I mean, Georgia just came in there and they said, look, everybody's talking about Tennessee and not us, and cute, and we'll go in and win the game. And that's basically what happened. Great SEC game. One of those games we're going to look back on and potentially be like, man, Tennessee makes that kick, that gets them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So,
and I think too, when we were talking about this, Caleb, I kind of like downplayed Gunnar Stockton, and like he totally proved me wrong. I was just looking at his stats. He threw 300 yards, 23 for 31, 2 touchdowns, and then he had a rushing touchdown. I mean, I think the term game manager gets thrown around a lot, but maybe that's true. But when you can manage a shootout with a top team in the country, um, I think you're a little bit more than just a game manager, or you're a very high level game manager.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being a game manager. I don't. Sometimes people kind of throw that around as an insult, but I think that he played really well and exactly how he needed to.
No,
Yes.
awesome. This is
There
an
you
awesome game. I'm stealing your spotlight here. No, this is these are one of these games I wish was on CBS. This is where
Yeah.
you missed the 2:30 CBS kickoff game because it had everything you could wish for. But that's what it felt like. It felt like the two teams that vehemently hate each other went down to the wire. And people weren't talking about Georgia. Georgia's the number 3 in the country. They're fine. In a way, it's like you just know they're going to be good. But again, I think I'm curious what this looks like long term for Georgia. If this was just the Tennessee offense finally, hit all the sevens at the lottery, and hit the jackpot offensively to gash them like this, or are we kind of morphing a little bit? And this is a team that might let up 30 points but can score 35. That's not what I'm used to in Georgia. And I don't think a lot of people are. So I'm very curious what this looks like for Georgia long term. But again, really good win to have on the books. But I think Tennessee's they showed that they could do this. This is not a step back year. And for all the craziness, controversy, and stuff that went down, the fact you brought in a guy and he's looked better than the guy you had in, and he's in a better spot, you kind of won. It's like winning an NBA trade, but college football.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, they kind of proved this, I want to say, what was that, 8 years ago when they won that shootout against Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl to make it to the championship where they were up on Alabama. And we were like, oh, this Georgia team's a little different. So, yeah, Georgia proved offensively that they can score, put up some points, and they'll be able to hang around, and it won't just be having to rely on the defense. Could be the other way around when everybody thinks. Georgia's a bye week this next week, and then they play Alabama at home.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big game. And Tennessee gets UAB. I feel bad for UAB. It's not going to be good for them.
Never feel bad for UAB.
Isn't that Trent Dilfer?
Yeah, it's Jerry's favorite coach.
You never feel bad for UAB for going out of their way to hire Trent Dilfer. That was their mistake. Literally, the guy they could have right now is at ULM. He was on that staff.
Well,
that was just a generational fumble of a hire. So I never feel bad for UAB.
Coach Prime kind of ruined it for a bunch of people, Jerry. Everybody now wants to get the high-profile coach. And
Coach Prime had the number 2 pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, well, but tell that to all these teams that are hiring all these guys. I mean that's just how it is.
I get it in some degree, but UAB, this is where it's so frustrating. UAB under Clark was really solid. They built something up. And again, Alabama Birmingham's had enough problems. This was a football program that at one point didn't exist because Bama Tuscaloosa was like, we don't want them here. And there's a lot of infighting within the state. The fact that this program exists and was on a good level in the G5, G6 now was its own stages of work. And then they're like, yeah, Trent Dilfer's got us. No, he doesn't. He got y'all nowhere. That is disappointing. And then watch now, UAB's going to pull up the upset of the year, and I'm going to be sitting here so furious because that's a job that should be taken by somebody else. That should be Vincent's job, who's at ULM right now. And he put ULM to one of his best seasons of all time last year. What do I know?
You may end up on the UAB, hype video that they put on Twitter.
Yeah, what, for the 15 people that are going to show up to that game because no one wants to watch Trent Dilfer football?
Maybe.
I'm just looking this up. He did one heck of a job in the Lipscomb Academy in Tennessee.
Yeah.
He had his own level of controversy there, with the way he treated players and stuff like that. That's a Catholic school. That's its own level of problems. Yeah, there you go. I found one of the few things I despise as much as like a Kalamazoo or Kansas in this world. But
And
it does not start with a K.
He has the longest passing touchdown in a playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, he's Super Bowl champion, Trent Dilfer. Over there.
It's not bringing him my wins in UAB. Like,
No, but he gets to show off his ring.
So who?
The players, the recruits. It's big time.
Hey, they go somewhere else.
Everybody makes mistakes, just like Notre Dame makes mistakes by putting Tyler Buckner in the game in pressure situations. We still do this. The guy has screwed us. He's hurt us. He's battened us. He took us. He lost Marcus Freeman. Last time he had an 0-2 start, Tyler Buckner was his starting quarterback. We get to Luke Hoxie. Damn, just getting here. Did you guys already talk Notre Dame? No, we're talking to him right now. And this is one of the 2 games of the weekend that may make me retire from football. I was at this game. I said last week I thought they were going to lose. I thought they'd start 0-2. But as you get into the stadium, atmosphere was great. Loudest I've ever heard the place. The loudest I've ever heard that place. Insane. They did a towel game. I knew, especially when they announced the towel game, I knew they'd lose. Every time there's a towel game, they lose. We're not Pittsburgh. We're not waving terrible towels. It's not what we do. But no, you get into the stadium. I was surrounded by a bunch of A&M fans. The one kid next to me was 6'9".
Wow.
You want to talk about intimidating? That was intimidating. But no, I mean, I'll start out. A&M fans were great. They're the fans that you chirped with, but, you kind of looked at each other and you smiled afterwards. You shook hands when you left. They hate everybody in the SEC, and I mean everybody in the SEC. And the one guy told me, he goes, I really don't care for Texas, and I really don't care for Ole Miss. I said, I get Texas. I said, that's a good rivalry. And he turned his head so fast, and he goes, we have not beaten them in years. He goes, you can't call that a rival. They beat us. But on to this game. I will start out. This game could have been a blowout for both teams. I'll start out by saying that. Notre Dame started out hot. I was like, holy shit, we're going to win this football game, and it's not even going to be close. And then they just let old Texas A&M and the Aggies stick around. Marcel Reed, yeah, he played good. He had the game-winning touchdown pass, but he missed 3 long balls that were easy touchdowns. Notre Dame clearly has problems. If they keep playing like this, they'll be lucky to go 8-4. That's a fact.
Who do you have? Who do you have them dropping the other 2 to?
They'll lose to USC because USC will throw bombs on them all day. Not even a question. So they'll lose to them, and they'll probably lose to like Pitt or somebody gross. Like it'll be somebody like that. But this defense is atrocious. All the questions coming into this season was quarterback, offense. How's that going to be? We understand they're going to run the ball, blah, 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 blah. CJ Carr's not the problem. That kid is crazy good. And supposedly there's a report that he's tipping the plays or whatever. Yeah, A&M didn't know that. They didn't. I mean, if he was tipping the play, it didn't matter. He stands in the pocket. He makes some incredible throws. They got the run game involved. They did all that. The defense, I will say this, and nobody really talked about it, and I brought it up before the season, and this kid played safety, so no one thought that this would be such an impact on this defense. But them losing Xavier Watts hurts this team so much. And I don't know what it is with Notre Dame, but it feels like the last 10 years, it's heavily relied on, they need a great safety in the back end, and it kind of covers a lot of problems. They had a year when Loie Gilman transferred from Navy to play at Notre Dame. The only reason they were 9-3, 10-2 that year was because he was at safety. They had Kyle Hamilton for 3 years, covered up a lot of problems. And then Xavier Watts comes in, and he had a pick last night. He wherever the ball is on the football field, he's there. And he could help cover up some of these problems. He's no longer there. They're relying on guys from the transfer portal or young guys. I think Tay Johnson will be good. They finally put him in later in the game, and they played a little bit better. But I think losing him is it hurts his defense so much. There's no push up front. The defensive tackles are terrible. They should have went and paid some money. They have better edge rushers, but the defensive tackles are terrible. It just was ugly. It was a game they should have won and a game that they should have gotten blown out. So it was one of those weird games, but I will say probably the best football games I've ever watched in person. It was a slugfest.
Jerry, did you watch the game?
I only got bits and pieces. I was at this lovely wedding in Richmond.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I got some of the highlights, but I did kind of catch up on it today as I was trying to kind of just see what happened. This is just weird from Notre Dame for the fact that under Freeman, they've been very good defensively all these years. I'm not going to just be like, oh, it's the time for you to fire Chris Ash, but it's like, I'm just not used to that. And CJ Carr has been very, very good. That pick hurts, but this is a game where those mistakes really add up. Both teams made their fair share of them. Both teams had their moments, but it's like, what's so interesting to me about Notre Dame is that they have lost 2 games that are very winnable. They've lost them by what? It was 3 and now 1.
4 points total. 4 points.
4 points total determines if you're 2-0 against 2 ranked opponents or 0-2. But the thing about Freeman so far is, I want to say he wins all these games. He's won a good amount of these games. I mean, he got to the national title. He's beat up USC the last couple of years. He's won some of your rivalry games. It's weird to not see them, to see him this close and not be on the other side of this. But that's kind of when you're in that 1-score world, which Notre Dame loved living in and continues to love living in, you have these heartbreaks. But I'm just curious what this defense looks like long term. Freeman, again, a noted defensive guy. We were talking about Luke Fickell earlier, defensive coordinator with Luke Fickell under Cincinnati, and here at Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. So we're going to see what happens here, because that is what I'm so fascinated by. Because you don't have your generational safety or top draft pick safety right there right now. You still got a lot of good pieces, but to see both these teams, Mike Elko, defensive guy, A&M, really good running team overall is what I've always thought about them, and then drop 41, really weird. Like, this is just, it's kind of confusing me how 2 defensive minded coaches and have like good pieces here and there, but you're not like, oh, these are elite offenses are dropping 40 on each other. But this is the beauty of the sport. You have these great moments. You have, for some teams, heartbreaks for others. This is a big one for A&M. If there's any fan base that's been struggling the last couple of years and has been on the wrong side of these moments, it's been Texas A&M, the perpetual 8-4 team. And now they have a coach that's hard-nosed. He yells, he throws chairs. NBC gamers caught that. And they came out and just barely survived. That's awesome. This is what we want. I know it hurts Caleb, and Caleb's like, oh yeah, I picked this right, but look, you're still sad. So congratulations on getting that right. Congrats on being right. Now you have to put up with the agony of it. But this is awesome. This is why we love this sport. It's moments like this, weird shit like this.
So there was I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a Sports Illustrated article. And it said, this is why I asked you if you'd watch the game, Jerry, because I know Caleb obviously did not watch it on the TV. But it said, the article is titled, "Why NBC Should Be Ashamed of Notre Dame Texas A&M Broadcast." Do you guys know where I'm going with this?
No clue.
Is it the refs?
No, it is. So during the game, after Tyler Buckner fumbled that or dropped it or whatever, they did nothing but talk about it and show him on camera the entire time Texas A&M was driving down the field at the end of the game.
See, that's funny because in the stadium, because that was in the end zone that we were in. So we were in that end zone, and nobody in the state from our angle, because it was like, he was kind of covered up a little bit. Nobody knew what happened. So everybody kind of thought it was a bad snap or whatever. And they never replayed it in the stadium. Never once replayed it.
Yeah.
Everybody's like looking up to the Jumbotron being like, what happened? They never once replayed it. So that irritated me. But that sucks that they did that. But I mean, he's kind of been the joke for Notre Dame football for like the last 5 years.
It says NBC has broadcast Notre Dame home games since 1991, and very few have been as compelling as Saturday's night Texas A&M comeback over the Fighting Irish. However, perhaps no moment during those 35 seasons has been broadcast as pathetically as part of Saturday's game.
It's crazy.
No, so I mean, even like because I had missed the drop snap, but I caught everything after that, and I was like, why are they like showing this dude so much? And I guess that is what it was. And they were talking about it a lot, so I knew very quickly what had happened, and it was kind of strange. Like while Texas A&M was driving down the field, we were talking about Tyler Buckner dropping an extra point or whatever, fumbling the snap.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly shows you that this was all collusion. We should protest the game at this point. NBC paid him to drop the snap, and then they paid Notre Dame's defense to allow Texas A&M to score on 4th and goal from the 11. I will also say I'm not, and it's not the Buckner fumble is not the reason we lost. I mean, it sucks. Yeah, we would have went to overtime, but we should have easily have won that game. And I don't like to blame the refs. That shouldn't have mattered, but the refs were terrible for both sides. Horrible. Maybe the worst officiating crew I've ever watched in my life. Both fans were pissed off at every call that was made because the targeting made no sense. I thought Freeman was going to fight the ref. That was also right in front of us. He literally, this isn't, if I was the ref, I'd be so intimidated. So they bring the little camera out, and Freeman is literally 10 feet, like parallel directly in front of him. Just like standing there the entire time he's watching this screen. And there's other refs there, and you can tell they're looking. And then as soon as he comes out to make the call, Freeman gets closer to him and closer to him. And as soon as he makes a call, Freeman like just starts like doing this and like gets in his. He's just like doing this. Ref had to break it up. Coach had to break it up. It was a terrible call. It made no sense. They didn't call it on the field. It was booth reviewed. And then there was a targeting call that on the next drive for offense for Notre Dame that should have been called in Texas A&M wasn't. And then I figured out as I'm in the car on the way home, there was a tackle. A Notre Dame defender was tackled on the last play of the game. Blatantly tackled. And they got no push all night. The last play of the game, they get pushed, the guy gets tackled. And everybody's complaining about that call. But yet again, that's not the reason it lost. It does hurt, and it would have helped, but they have a major problem on defense. I don't know how they fix it because they're saying it's not play calling, it's execution. We've heard that before with Brian Kelly. His execution is a reason that they would win games and lose games. I get that, but there's so many holes. The one kid I think had like 200 yards receiving. They could not stop him. And like I said, Marcel Reed, yeah, he threw for a lot of yards, but he was still like 17 for 37. He could have connected on so many more balls. The first play of the game, they came out, threw a deep shot that should have been easily been caught by the kid. They had another one where he overthrew him. And the other problem is they have one corner nobody throws to, Leonard Moore, and he proved that in the game because he had a pick. They tried it, and then they didn't throw to him again. Christian Gray is a liability. I don't know what the linebackers are doing. There's no for a team that was like, oh, we're worried about this offense and Carr is the quarterback, it's completely flip-flopped. I don't know how it's fixed. They quickly have to fix it. Now they play Purdue, which Purdue doesn't look bad under their new head coach. I don't think they've won a game, but they're still not terrible like they were the year before. Now that's a rivalry game. You have to flip the script, figure it out. And it's just, they're in a very, very weird position right now. Because I think, honestly, they probably thought they'd be 1-1 at this point and not 0-2. That's coming into the season. They probably figured they maybe would lose one of these games, and they probably thought it because they had a freshman quarterback. That's not the problem. So they have a lot of things to figure out in a very, very short amount of time. And the other thing is they had 2 weeks prepared for this game. That's the other thing that's being very understated. And Freeman is a good coach. He's usually a great big game coach. Unlike Brian Kelly, gets the guys going for it. And they were ready for it. They almost fought him before the game even started. I've never seen that in my lifetime at Notre Dame. But you had 2 weeks to prepare, and you still allow 40 points. I think that's the bigger problem. And one thing I know about Freeman is he knows it's on him just as much as anybody, and he's going to try anything in his power to fix it. But it feels like it's first season kind of all over again. But they quickly have to figure it out, and the chance for the playoffs is probably gone, even if they were to go 10-2. That's just honestly what I think.
I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet on any playoff concerns. Again, these are 2 teams that I know, at least with one of them, the loss will probably mature really well. Because A&M is still, in my mind, up a little bit up in the air. Very good team, but let's say they stumble, fine, that loss doesn't end as well. I think the Miami loss will age like fine wine because they are fantastic. They continue to be very good. But, it's just weird to see this team give up 40-plus points, but it's not over. Purdue will be a get-right game. This is me kind of just giving Caleb some consoling him a little bit, consoling the Notre Dame fan base. That Purdue still got a lot of work. That's a game you get right in. They'll figure it out slowly. But I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. But it does realize, I do realize, and I think what this Notre Dame season will teach a lot of us, it's just how hard it is going to be to win a national title. Because you look at where Notre Dame was this last year. Now, granted, this time last year, week 2, week 3, they're trying to figure out if Notre Dame is still relevant after a Northern Illinois loss. Don't have that problem right now. And instead you lose 2 really good games to top 20, top 10 opponents, depending on where the A&M kind of ends up. But this is a team that last year had its own set of flaws, but continued to win and got themselves all the way into like within 10 points of a national title. Now you're sitting here 0-2 with people like Caleb in this world worried that this is the end, that there's no playoff hope. And there might be, I don't know, it's week 3. Making a playoff prediction is a terrible idea for all of us involved. But like, there's still plenty of time, but there will be some things to be figured out. I do think they miss Al Golden. I do think that is not helping here because Al Golden was a fantastic defense coordinator. Does not mean Chris Ash can't figure out how to be a good DC. I'm not going to pull the plug on him 2 games in either necessarily, but it does hurt when you have one of the things that's been really nice about Notre Dame staff. It's been pretty congruent. You've had pieces together. Denbrock's a guy who's been in Notre Dame before. You brought him in after Jared Parker went to Troy. So it's like now you're kind of going your first year where your staff is getting picked, not really picked. And I want to say you're not really upgrading. Parker was, in my mind, Denbrock was an upgrade OC-wise over Parker. I can't say the same thing about Ash, but season's not over. This is a really big win for the Aggies. What this will do as well is when we come into playoff discussions later this year, this is a game that will get tossed around a lot in terms of, oh, look how good the SEC is. So just get ready for whoever beats Texas A&M to use this transitive victory really aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think the biggest thing with Chris Ash is he can't make adjustments. Al Golden was very good at that. So that's the thing they have to figure out. And usually it was a bend, don't break defense, and now it's a fully break defense. So they have to figure some things out. I'm not hitting the panic button. I'm just hitting the realistic that they suck button. Because in the form
like the panic button.
no, in the form that they're in right now, they suck. They're terrible. But hey, the Chiefs are 0-2 as well in the NFL. So anything can happen at this point.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the NFL here. I cannot talk about that team anymore. It's just irritating me. I tried to
bring up the Bears.
I tried to forget. No, we're gonna bring up Joe Burrow. This is my fantasy team, so everything about my life. I should retire from football. I told that to somebody yesterday. I said both my teams I like are 0-2. My fantasy teams are now I should just retire from football. I'm done. Clearly, I have a hockey shirt on. I'm moving on. I'll see you guys at the Olympics for hockey. All right, Joe Burrow out 3 months with turf toe. Trevor is, of course, Toe Burrow right now is his name. Turf toe is the weirdest injury. I mean, this word gets thrown around all the time. It's like ended careers. I'm pretty sure did Deion Sanders lose a toe because of turf toe?
Maybe. He's had his own set of foot problems, leg problems, etc. But, yeah, this is a weird one. And, God, a Bengals team that finally goes 2-0, first time in Joe Burrow's career, has had enough mess in the offseason. One of the constant stable pieces that doesn't create a lot of headlines. The biggest headline for Joe Burrow outside of his football performance was his house getting broken into. And he took that like someone who didn't have their house broken into. Like, very calm and collected. Kudos to him. Is now, that's your solid piece. And I have no clue who their QB2 is. Like, I legitimately don't know. I'm not even saying
Jake Browning.
Yeah, Jake Browning.
All right, good luck, Jake Browning. You have all the pieces in the world, but
Jake
you
Browning
have to
made a playoff at once. It was
sure,
Washington.
Good luck. But like this, man, do I feel for Cincinnati fans because he's been your one piece, like solace of you can enjoy appreciation. Again, doesn't cause a lot of problems. Been a very good quarterback. This is a team a couple years ago that was chasing the Super Bowl. And now we're like, well, hopefully they can survive 3 months without that star QB that could have an injury that could be really lingering and cause career detriment. Good luck.
Yeah, I think what's funny too is we focus so much on their defense all off season, with getting the contract done and stuff with what's his name?
Trey Hendrickson.
Trey Hendrickson. And now we're sitting here like, oh crap, we forgot this was a possibility that something could happen on the offensive end. I think this is like worst case scenario Losing Joe Burrow, I mean, obviously it'd be terrible to lose Jamar or anybody like that, but to lose Joe Burrow, um, that really, really stinks. And like you were saying, Jerry, this is a Cincinnati Bengals team that is 2-0 right now. So this really sucks. I feel for the fantasy people.
I
I think
appreciate that.
I
Appreciate
think Chase Brown's stock just went up in fantasy though, which I could see. Them trying to be a little more run heavy. But yeah, this is terrible, terrible for Bengals fans.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: is Jake Browning has weapons. Of course, they spent money on weapons. They have no shortage of weapons. You got Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. You have Noah Fan at tight end. You have guys all over the place. You don't have an offensive line clearly because the guy still gets knocked around. I think that's the biggest thing. Is everybody talks about hey, yeah, they've made the money and they put money into the offense, not on the offensive line. Um, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you can't make a throw down the field because you're getting sacked, it doesn't matter what happens. This is that case where your money is not dispersed evenly or in the right places. And to Trevor's point, we talked about the defense being the problem all offseason, but we didn't talk about the offensive line on the offense. So Joe Burrow out 3 months. So it's going to be interesting to see what they are moving forward. Do they go out and get a Kirk Cousins, or do they make a trade for a veteran like that to bring into that team? But if there's no offensive line that's going to be good, and Joe Burrow can move a little bit, so I mean that's what sucks. But you lose a guy who's top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's the only guy other than Tom Brady to beat Mahomes in the playoffs to get to a Super Bowl. He's proven there when Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are great, but they haven't done that. He did that in Kansas City. Probably should have done it more than once. So it's just one of those things where you lose your franchise quarterback, the hope kind of goes away for the team, even though they started 2-0. If I told you right now, hey, the Bengals are 2-0, you'd be like, oh my gosh, Bengals are 2-0. And then I'd be like, Joe Burrow's here. You'd be like, they're done. So they're in a tough division that has good defenses, great pass rushers. So it's a wonder that Joe Burrow didn't get hurt last week with Myles Garrett because he got drilled in that game too.
Yeah. I think you kind of bring up an interesting point though, Caleb, with like bringing in someone like Kirk Cousins. I think that if you don't realistically think that you can make a really good push with someone like Kirk Cousins, it's kind of a waste of a player, a
Yeah.
pick. If you're not going to be, you might as well just see how it goes with Browning.
Yeah.
And then it really does suck because in the NFL, a lot of these guys' primes are so short or limited because I think of the physicality of the sport. In week 3, kind of chalk the season up already is really hard to do because you have, I would say 2 of the biggest young players in the entire NFL and Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. It does really suck to chalk this up as a season that, and like I said, we talked about this team all off season. It really does suck, and he is a phenomenal player. So I hope he gets better. He's still the same Joe Burrow. So in 3 months, is that like he could finish the season, or in 3 months is the season over? No, because it's not till February, right?
Yeah, so the 3 months thing is weird. I watched a video today about a doctor talking about it, and he basically said like the most critical chime is like 3 to 6 weeks. Around week 3, that's when you kind of start to put more body weight on your big toe. I didn't know that your big toe holds like 70% of your body weight every time you like walk, which is weird to think that something that small is holding the weight of you think your whole foot, not just your big toe. So he said the critical part is like week 3, because then they can start putting a special insole in your shoe that is just made for your foot, and then it can kind of start to see. So he could be back earlier in 3 months. I just think 3 months is like 3 months. It's the longest. Instead of being like, oh, he could come back in 5 weeks, getting everybody's hopes up and being, oh, he could come back, and then he doesn't play. I think they just say, hey, 3 months. If he comes back before that, great. But no, your point's great with like if they don't think they have a legitimate shot, don't go after quarterback because then they can just blame them having a bad season and help Zach
Right.
Taylor to be like, oh, Joe Burrow got hurt. We were screwed there.
Yeah.
So that saves Zach Taylor's job at that point because he can say, hey, with Joe Burrow, we were 2-0. And then beyond that, it's going to be interesting. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. If they're in the playoff hunt in 3 months, which that would be December, so you'd be close to the end of the year, I would assume he'd try to make a push back. But if they're not in the playoff hunt, I don't foresee him.
Yeah, and also too with Jake Browning, he's 29 years old. So I mean, he did not look very good yesterday, but they got the win.
Yeah.
I think that I would rather trust like a 29-year-old Jake Browning than overselling on like a Kirk Cousins who hasn't looked very good in the past couple of years, is back up for a reason in Atlanta. So I would put my see when you go to get Kirk Cousins, you're going all in. You're pushing your chips and saying, I will give up a player or a pick for this. Browning, it's like a call, like a high call in poker or whatever.
Well, also with Kirk Cousins, you got to pay him too. I mean, he's still paid.
Yeah.
His deal's still like $20 million.
Yeah,
Bengals clearly
insane.
don't want to pay that.
No.
So no, I mean the Bengals. Look, they have to play the Vikings next at Minnesota. They still have to play the Broncos, the Lions, Packers, Steelers, Jets, Bears. Hey, Jared, that helps us out a little bit. Maybe we can get a win there.
Sure.
Maybe. Then they have to play the Steelers, the Patriots, the Ravens, the Bills, the Ravens, the Dolphins, the Cardinals. This is terrible. This schedule's a gauntlet. His schedule is a gauntlet with Joe Burrow. It's even worse now. So we'll see. But a team that we all thought, hey, they're going to be there. They're back. They have all these weapons on offense. Trey Hendrickson's happy to play one more year. So we'll see. Other injuries, J.J. McCarthy out 2 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury. He didn't look great yesterday. Chris Collinsworth brought it up. He's only in the 8 quarters they played, he's looked good in 1. So we'll be interested to see. I think Carson Wentz is their backup.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor knows how that
baby.
goes. So we'll see from there. But 2 to 4 weeks, maybe he can figure it out when he comes back. Jaden Daniels also has a knee injury. They don't know if he's going to be able to play or not. But his backup is Marcus Mariota. So hopefully that's nothing too crazy.
Wouldn't it be amazing if Kevin O'Connell could do with Carson Wentz what he did with Sam Darnold last season?
Maybe. Or if Carson Wentz comes in and is Nick Foles.
Yeah. It's like a full circle moment.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Nick Foles had way less games than Carson Wentz. I mean, I guess because J.J. McCarthy's only out like 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess he could go out and win 3 games.
But if you have the hot hand, do you just stick with it?
It's really hard, though, because, you get J.J. was in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get this first round pick. He's really young. It's really hard to say. I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing. Everyone always brings this up, but Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for a long time. I think that it's not a huge issue but dude, that would be so crazy. Imagine J.J. McCarthy just on the sideline while Carson Wentz is just going ham. But then again, like Carson Wentz is super injury prone too, so.
Yeah, you never. Hey, I will say for the Vikings too is they also brought it up last night. They had Sam Darnold last year, 11-14 wins. Their backup was Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
who is Daniel Jones, and this goes to creepy photos. Are the Colts back? Were the Colts ever a thing? Is the question. So yeah, the rest of the slate of the NFL. I will say I think the Packers are going to win the Super Bowl. It pains me to say that.
They look so good.
They're so good. And then when they threw up the graphic that Brett Favre won a championship when he was 27, Aaron Rodgers won a championship when he was 27, Jordan Love turns 27 in like 2 weeks, it said Super Bowl champions. They are just they're a different level. I think the Commanders are going to take a step back this season. I thought that coming in, but the Packers they're the Packers, man.
Well, and when you look at what the Packers did to the Lions week 1, and look at what the Lions did to the Bears week 2, that Packers team, unless I'm sure this happened, that they severely pissed off the Lions, which I'm sure did happen. And I'm sure when they play again, it's going to be a closer game. But the Lions yesterday looked like last year's Lions.
Yeah.
They looked like a super explosive offense, a good defense, and the Packers made everyone go, "Oh, the Lions thing is over. Like the Lions thing doesn't exist anymore." And honestly, with the Packers in that division, the Lions could be like one of the best teams to never win anything because this Packers team does look like legit, real deal. Um, we'll go through some other games. I was gonna bring up the Eagles, but we can talk about that in a second.
Dude. Oh my God! You're just hurting Lions fans with that sentence of this could be one of the best teams that wins nothing as the
Yeah, well, I
franchise
mean,
is
at least it's not the
perpetually.
0-16 Lions.
I know, but like God, you want to talk about fan bases that have it bad. I know us
Yeah.
Bears fans will complain. Trust me, we have valid reasons. But like God, you want to talk about putting a dagger in somebody's heart. It's telling a Lions fan that they finally have a competent team that makes sense. They have a coach they love dearly. And they are now actually, we're regressing to the mean, I should say, probably in week 2
Yeah.
of having a week 1 where they get stun gunned. And then week 2, they look like a Super Bowl contender. Okay, we're back to them being just a good football team. God, Trevor, I just felt that from Lions fans. And the Bears lost by 30. Like, I'm just sitting there oh my God. A lot of good games on crack this week. Like, definitely the New York Cowboys game. That was
fantastic
something.
game.
Also, the Panthers-Cardinals game, that was on crack. Yep. Shout out to Chuba Hubbard for all those garbage yards. That might win me this week in fantasy. And another game on crack. That we could be talking about the Colts way differently right now if a leverage call isn't the key deciding
point. Oh, my gosh. I had to Google what a leverage call was.
Yeah, like are the Colts back? Maybe. Shout out to their owner being very invested. That's kind of like the spotlight I've taken away from that. And they're the only team right now in the NFL that has not punted. So
wow,
that's a crazy stat. That's crazy.
Yeah. So take that for what you will. No, there's a lot of games that are just very weird. But there are a lot of good data point games as well. Like again, we talk about the Lions Bears. That was a good data point game for us to realize, okay, maybe the Lions aren't that bad, but also Green Bay's like that good. That Jane Daniels injury is really going to suck. That's really going to suck because that is their whole offense is the fact he just doesn't take a sack and they somehow gain yards a lot of times, no matter what the hell happens. Marcus Mariota, I know you went to Oregon, man. You don't got that type of speed. This is not prime Chip Kelly, Oregon there.
Yeah.
I'm very still curious in the Justin Fields Jets experiment. That's been kind of fun to watch in the back end. But man, how are the Bears screwed?
They're terrible. They are terrible. They are horrible. Look, their schedule's tough. The Lions had extra motivation. They got embarrassed week 1. And then they also wanted to prove to Ben Johnson that he sucks. That was the other motivation factor. But they're terrible. Our best corner played, and then he got injured. We give up another one-handed catch to Tesla. This kid just comes in and makes one-handed catches like it's stealing candy from a baby. Caleb Williams doesn't play terrible. He had a couple throws where you're like, okay, that's Caleb Williams, where you're like, why are you doing that? But they're just awful. I will say, what gives me hope as a Bears fan is Mike Ditka started 0-2 as well, Jerry.
Sure, man. But they also had the 85 Bears defense, and right now the 2025 Bears defense.
It's going to take some time. You gotta have faith.
I will say this is the nice thing about the Bears just absolutely pooping the bed these first 2 weeks is we can go finally back to the fact a little bit at least that this is a new this is a new head coach with a lot of new pieces and is still figuring it out, and that first year head coaches don't just walk in and win 10 games. The hard part about the Bears being 0-2 is that these were 2 games that when you walked into this season, and Caleb is our schedule man, you don't have a lot of wins already. And I get it.
But hey, we may have picked one up from the Bengals.
Maybe, but that gets us to, like, if we go through that gauntlet, you still have Philly in there. I think Kansas City as well. This is one of the coming into the year. This is one of the talking points of the Bears. They literally, I think, have the second hardest schedule in the NFL in the first place. So when it just hurts when you blow a week 1 game that you have a lead in, because like, okay, it's not like I was like Bears playoffs, bet it now. 1, not gambling advice. 2, if you do, then you're just dumb. But like, it really, like, you can't, when you lose these games and also you get blown out, it's like, oh my Lord. How bad can it get? But don't worry. Ryan Poles, 5 more years.
Hey, we're going to take the North back. That's what he said, and we're never going to give it up. We play the Cowboys. this week. We are a 1.5-point favorite. I
And
have
that's
no
the
idea
3
how.
o'clock Fox game. National TV
Well,
embarrassment.
Jerry, 4:25 for us Eastern Standard.
Yeah,
folk.
don't worry. God's time is
The
Central Time.
Bears are the 1.5 points favorites against the Cowboys.
Yeah, if you want to
God.
bet the Cowboys, make some money right now.
Dude, I
That-
can't wait for Dak Prescott to look
I
better
don't
than him.
understand that at all.
The only joy I'm going to get out of that is I get to watch Tom Brady call a game. It's the only joy.
Tom Brady's going to talk about Caleb Williams. Oh, no.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful. This is my heaven, Jerry. What are you talking about?
Oh, my God.
As a Tom Brady guy, this is going to be beautiful. I hope Tom has an immaculate suit, maybe a watch that costs more than the Bears franchise. So that'll be interesting to watch. Then we play the Raiders, the Commanders, Monday Night Football. That's going to be a great one to watch us get demolished. We play the Saints. I think we're going to pick up a win there, Jerry. I'm feeling confident.
Okay, so
I was going to say this at the beginning. I thought the Saints were the worst team in the NFL, and I know they're 0-2, but they don't look awful.
We are
I
giving
mean-
the Saints a run for the worst team in the league right now.
I was going to say I've seen much worse from the Bears than I have the Saints.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean,
Confident.
they lost by 5 points to the 49ers?
Well, they had Mac Jones at quarterback. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
hey, that's also a Dennis Allen revenge game against the Saints. He's going to put
Oh, yeah.
everything he has.
Well,
into that
okay,
game.
last time we had a revenge game, the Lions dropped 52 on the Bears. So revenge games right now have not worked really well. But no, I don't want to talk about the Bears more. Let's talk about the Eagles because that game was, God. You want to talk about, like, the NFL and football nowadays, we talk about high-scoring offenses and all these big things. This game is just who's going to beat the hell out of each other a little bit more. The passing games for both teams were despicable.
Yeah.
Frustrating, not great, right? There's the end of the game soundbite that's been going through social media. Chris Jones being to Jalen Hurts, like, you didn't even have 100 yards. And Jalen Hurts probably responding, but we won the game. Shut your up. So, but that was, like, I think a really good synopsis of this game. It was ugly. It was disgusting. So even though all football moves nowadays into spread out the offense, these great things, all that, this game was decided by a pick and tush pushes. Like
I will say I didn't like the tush push last year. I love it after that game. I have found a new love for that because it is just so it's such a football play of like, hey, I'm going to do this thing and you're not going to be able to stop it. Now, granted, there was the one false start that they didn't call. But if you actually watch it from the line, Chris Jones was in the neutral zone. So it's one of those plays where, like, I don't think the refs know what to do when it happens.
Well, and I think
but it's awesome.
A ref literally said, he's like, I'm done officiating.
That's Dean Blandino.
Yeah.
The guy who's now in the Fox. He used to be the head of officiating. And Dan Patrick talked about that's probably going to be the thing that gets that banned now, is that what he said, and it's probably planted by the NFL. He's probably forced to say it. Probably paid $5 million to say that. But I will say that's a game typically the Chiefs win. In the last 5 years, the Chiefs win that game.
Yeah.
And they didn't win that game. Kelsey dropped the touchdown. I mean, it's a weird situation because he's a great player. He's a Hall of Fame player. He's probably the second best tight end ever to play the game. But you only put him in spots now. And that, to me, would hurt me as a player because you don't fully get the juice of being in every play. So for him to drop that catch that he usually catches, usually walks in, he does a little dance, they do the cutaway to Tay-Tay. That didn't happen. The Eagles player made a hell of a play. I will say Josh Simmons, the tackle, made an even better play. He saved a touchdown as the left tackle of the team. But I think that's the thing with the Chiefs is we're so used to them beating the Chargers somehow pulling out and then them beating the Eagles somehow. And Patrick Mahomes did not look great. I think them not being able to move the ball down the field at a great pace is starting to catch up with them because they're not a team that is fully on hey, we're going to run the ball, we're going to be dominant and kind of be in these sloppy games. They have been the last couple of years, and it's worked out great. But I think that's starting to catch up to them. So that's going to be interesting. So, I think, look, I said it until someone beats them in the division. I'm still going to pick them to win the division. But when you sit here and they're 0-2 in 2 games that even in their own minds that they're used to winning, that's what's going to be very, very interesting.
Well, and I think I said this too, I don't know if it was last week or a couple of weeks ago. If you go back and look at some of those Patriot teams, they didn't particularly feel like the best team in the regular season. But teams, I think that have built a culture around being a championship level team. Say what you will about the Chiefs, they show up every playoffs and figure out a way to do it, especially when they get into like the Ravens, Bills thing. That those games are mind blowing. But 0-2, um, the Chargers look great. The Eagles are, one of the better teams in the NFL. So it's hard to go and beat Philly or the Chargers really early. That's why I'm glad that we won. I'm also like there were some things that I really didn't like, particularly with our pass defense. Our secondary looks terrible. We miss Darius Slay so much. Um, Adoree Jackson, I like wish I want to get rid of him so bad. He is terrible. The only reason that we didn't lose to the Cowboys is because CD, I was like, well, no one's guarding me, so I might as well just guard myself. And now, like, oh my gosh, it's always him. These two games, it's been him every time. So I think that doesn't look great. Obviously, when you get down to like the end of the fourth quarter, it's really nice to have Saquon Barkley just to be like, here, run the ball for 6 yards. Here, run it for three. Here, we're gonna touch push and get a first down and win the game. Um, but yeah, it wasn't the most beautiful Eagles win ever, but in the National Football League, I'll take a win over a team you just saw in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, I have a stat here. Of teams that have started 0-2 to start the season, 11.5 of them have made the playoffs. Only 6% of those teams won their division, and 1.1% of the teams that start 0-2 have won the Super Bowl. So it slowly starts to hurt them a little bit. This is kind of going to feel like, I would say, like the Patriots in the
Yeah,
middle in between Super Bowls, where it's like they're still a very good team. They're still going to be there, but they're not going to like make it to the Super Bowl, or if they do make it to the Super Bowl, they'll lose. So
yeah.
then they kind of have to retool around Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's not the problem. I mean,
No,
he's running all over the place. He's doing everything he can to win. It's just not
yeah.
everything around him is there. I get Xavier Worthy's hurt. Rashid Rice is whatever Rashid Rice is
Suspended.
doing right now,
Yeah.
suspended for 6 games. Hey, free Rashid Rice though. Jerry, you have one of those T-shirts?
Hey, you think I would buy that, dude? I only buy Bears gear exclusively when it comes to this. But what if I told you right now there was a wide receiver one in Miami desperate for catches
Oh,
that you might be able to get at a discount for probably a couple draft picks for a team that looks like they're going to be looking to the future really soon.
this sounds like
Sometimes the NFL script writers are that predictable.
you're
I
talking
just
about
feel that
you're
one
talking
coming.
about that Waddle guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Waddle, new Chiefs star receiver, because Tyreek Hill will get overpaid by the Bears and get 8 draft picks, 8 draft
Not
picks
gonna
for Tyreek
happen,
Hill,
Jerry.
and then Roma Dunze gets traded and then turns out to be a star somewhere else because that's how that works. Yeah, if you really wanted me to be an NFL scriptwriter, that's how I would do it. Which is Jalen Waddle becomes a star in Kansas City, Tyreek Hill gets overpaid by the Bears, and then Caleb Williams moves on 2 years from now. Right now, for those who are interested in the fantasy world, the Bucks and Texans are on at 7-7 a pop right now. Houston is moving down the field. It'll probably be 14-7 if they keep it up. Both touchdown passes by Stroud and Baker Mayfield. I did not see who. I think one was Nico Collins though, so keep that in mind. Then everyone the other people care about is if Brock Bowers playing tonight. I hope he is for my sake. That's been kind of the question going into this week. So we're keeping an eye on both those games. We'll report back later. But that's kind of my final thoughts outside of the fact that shout out, we're on Michael Penix's watch. He looked like garbage. I'm just going to put that one out there. I want to put that out there. We're on Michael Penix's watch. He did not look good. If Bijan Robinson wasn't basically Saquon Barkley, but younger, that team could be in some real trouble.
Yeah, that game was terrible.
Kyle Pitts looked good.
Yeah, he's the only guy who got targeted. That's why I'm concerned. And not that Kyle Pitts I've ever thought is like he's the tight end that you dream on in fantasy. Like, yeah, this is definitely a bargain pick, and then he gets like 6 points every week.
Every year.
Yeah, he's constantly disappointing, but like, hey, he did not look that good. He really did not look that good. And I'm very curious what that looks like because the Falcons have a lot of good pieces, as we found out this week by just slowly dismantling Minnesota. The fact that they held Justin Jefferson as tight as they did. I know they basically double covered him all game, but they took care of business on the defensive end. You don't get that many pressures. You don't stop one of the best receivers in the league that much if you're not that good. But we are low-key on Michael Penix's watch.
I mean, I will say all these cornerbacks drafted in the same draft class as Caleb Williams, they've not looked good so far. So I want people to calm
Jane
down.
Daniels,
On the
I can't let you say
well,
that about Jane Daniels being
no,
fantastic.
I'm just saying so far this year, he didn't look great against the Packers. And I get the Packers are a really good football team, but they kind of caught up to him. They had a great game plan against him, and it worked out extremely well. When he thought he was going to be able to run away, like another guy would just loop around to get him. So outside of him, Jerry, I will say everybody else has been talking about how bad Caleb Williams is. They need to start looking at their own boys around the league and, look in the mirror. All right, I'll just quickly, before we end this, just me and Trevor will be live Wednesday. We'll go through college football, give our picks. Jerry's picks will be there. Jerry will not be with us as he's, he has to work, of course.
That's what I do.
Got to pay the mortgage. You got to do what you got to do, Jerry. Someday we'll be able to retire you from that job.
Yeah.
But sadly, today's not that day.
This show presented by DraftKings. You're welcome.
It could be there. We could have the weekly special, the worst bets. Bet the opposite. So quickly looking at next week's NFL, Bills play the Dolphins Thursday night as Mike McDaniel's fired after that game. They start 0-3. Somehow the Bears got Fox's game of the week. Well, man, be gross. Bengals and Vikings is going to be really nasty. Two backup quarterbacks. Colts and Titans. Colts may be back from creepy photo. Who would have thought? Daniel Jones is God. Rams, Eagles. That game right there, circling it all day.
Yeah, that's a good game.
That's going to be a very, very good game. Rams struggled against the Titans, but hey, what are you going to do? How's that a 1 o'clock game?
Well, and put that in mind. Tell me what Sunday Night Football is. Tell the people.
It's Chiefs Giants.
Can we please swap? Or so I wish this is where I get so mad that they don't flex earlier in the year, because like the Giants are like they're fun. Maybe I don't know what to make of them.
They
weird.
look fun against the Cowboys.
They just let Russ cook, man. Just let him cook.
It's like something's going on there. It's there's like a fire in the building, but nothing's been burnt. Like that's kind of like what's going on. It's really weird there. But that would be such a great flex.
Monday Night Football makes up for it though. Lions at the Ravens.
Ooh, that is a good one.
Oh man.
What more could you ask for, Jerry? I mean,
Chris Collinsworth telling us that looks a little Mahomesy with the overthrow to a receiver that I've never heard of. Oh man, we prayed for times like this, man. We prayed for this. We're in the middle of baseball season, like, I can't wait for football. And then week 3, I'm like, why the hell are the Chiefs and the Giants Sunday Night Football? I gotta be more grateful.
More grateful, man. You do, yeah. Oh, but speaking of the Giants game, wait, what was it? Aubrey has kicked 6. He's made 6 field goals over 60 yards.
He's a tank.
That's unreal. This season alone, I think, is what it was.
I can't wait for the MLS pipeline. Oh, the MLS to NFL pipeline's gonna be nuts.
Yeah.
What I think is so funny with Aubrey is he was literally on Notre Dame's campus and never stepped foot on the football team.
He was too busy doing soccer stuff.
Yeah, he's a tank, dude, and I think he's a free agent after this year. Him and Jerry are probably going to get into it over a kicker, the best player on their team.
Dude, the Dak Prescott extension, limiting them from getting the generational kicker. Oh man, you can't write this better.
I mean, it's so funny too, because real quick before we end this is like for the Cowboys, we're like before overtime, they're setting up to get better position. They had a draw play. The guy could have got like 5 more yards. He just fell on the ground with 6 seconds left, right at the line of scrimmage, because he's like, he's got this kick, dude. He doesn't need 5 yards. And if I'm a kicker, I'd be like, I would love to have those 5 yards. Please give me the extra 5 yards. He goes out there and he's like Steph Curry with the logo 3. He's like logo.
Yeah.
He's going to break the record this year.
It's unbelievable.
He's going to break the record. He may kick a 70-yarder.
That'd be awesome.
But
do you remember when 60, 10 years ago was crazy?
Yeah, everybody was like 55-yarder, man. This is going to be a tough one.
He was doing that in his sleep, and we were like, he's the greatest kicker of all time.
Yeah, every guy does that now. And if your guy doesn't do it but is a good kicker, you're like, he's not good. No, he's not good.
Or he's Young Ho Koo, and you just tell him to stop coming to the games.
Yeah. It is crazy, but that's why we love football. Another week in the books, guys. Another big one coming up in both college and NFL. We did it on a Monday. Worked out very well. Gave us a chance to really recap all of Sunday. We'll be back next Sunday as all of us, but me and Trevor will be back Wednesday with college football picks, previewing the next week in the NFL.
And we will miss Jerry dearly.
We will. We will, Jerry.
We're 3 weeks away from my AI bot being here.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can afford that.
You know,
Let's
sponsored by
ask some of the
DraftKings.
Bitcoin bros.
Yeah,
that's right.
They'll front it.
We are in that sector of the world. So we may be Shark Tanking it here, boys. We may be going to New York for a pitch. Okay.
NFL Week 3, sponsored by Dogecoin.
Yeah. Hey, nobody else is doing it. We'll be the first.
We'll do it.
But as always, thanks for watching.
Thank you.